Okay, so there you are. You two are hanging out, and you're like starting to think this way of like, oh, this is somebody I could be serious with.
Yeah.
And I'm open to that now. Like I'm exploring that thought. I'm like visualizing this future together. Like, and you don't have to, I'm not asking you to share anything. Again, I can edit this all out. That's why we're not doing this live. So if you say something, you're like, actually, don't use that. I won't use that. Just like I told your wife, and she like said a bunch of stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'll delete that. But no, how do I want to phrase this? Can you recall how the two of you started talking about like a serious future together?
I do. I actually vividly remember it.
Yeah, for the sake of somebody who has not yet had that life experience, how would you describe like sort of that transition and experience of like talking to a woman?
Yeah.
And be like, maybe this is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation. How'd that go?
We were out on a bar crawl in Washington, D.C.
As one does.
Around Christmas time. It was a Christmas bar crawl. And I think we were just talking, and a lot of times this maybe doesn't go well because if both people aren't really like feeling the same way, then someone could get scared off and like that sort of thing.
Sure.
But, I think Kristen and I had been dating only for a few months, but you could tell that we were both, invested in the relationship. We had seen each other a bunch of times, like flying down, like she coming up to New England or me going down to DC.
Yeah.
And we were out and we were just talking. And I think it just like came up, and I think she said it first, where she was like, I'm really starting to like you. I really wanted this relationship to work. I can see this going, far. Like, is this something that you're into too? And I was like, yeah, totally. Like, we should start talking about how do we want to handle like, we still live apart. We're still doing our own thing right now. Like, when do we come together? Like, where do we come together? You really should move up here. I don't want to move to DC. But it just sort of, again, naturally came up. And I think that is because we had both, she's a year younger than me, so she was in her late 20s. But we had both, lived our 20s. Like, your 20s are super important, right? Like that's when you're doing a lot of like dumb things. That's when you're again like doing all the stuff that we talked about. Yeah. We had done that. We had dated different people, long-term relationships and not. And we kind of, we ran into each other randomly, and then we started dating, and it just all naturally felt good and normal, and felt like it fit.
You weren't forcing it.
We weren't, and we didn't have to because we were apart. And it just we just started having the conversation about it, and that's how it happened, which is weird because I don't think that happens all the time. But it did for us, and it didn't scare either one of us off. It actually made us both more excited. Yeah. And we started, planning, I think then we even started planning like a trip or something, and really kind of scheduling out, okay, well, what weekends are you going to come down? Like, let's figure that out, and let's book things more in advance. And it kind of kept building and building and building from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you had, at what stage did you start the conversations, and how did the conversations go about what your expectations were of your life together?
In terms of who would be moving, like where, and then afterwards, like after that,
like long term, you're like, are we gonna have kids? How many kids are we gonna have? Yeah. Like, did you guys have those conversations, or just like those dominoes didn't fall till much later?
So those dominoes didn't fall until probably, well, I don't want to say like when we were engaged, because we talked about that stuff beforehand. It was always the intention that we would both be working. Like, Kristen didn't want to be like a stay-at-home mom, and she's really not really a stay-at-home mom now. I mean, she's doing the MomComm stuff. But that all came about. Her what she does now kind of came about as a result of having children, doing some other things, and like kind of combining them all together. But her intention was always to like be working, as was mine.
Yeah.
But we had always talked about that. We'd always talked about having children, and we both wanted kids.